The silence in this house used to be a comfort. After my dear Robert passed, the quiet was heavy, yes, but it was mine. It held memories, echoes of laughter, the phantom click of his favorite armchair settling. Then there was Max. My sweet, lumbering golden retriever, 12 years old but still with the heart of a puppy. His gentle snores from the rug beside my bed, the rhythmic thump of his tail against the floorboards when I woke. Those sounds filled the void Robert left, stitching the silence into something bearable, even warm. Max wasn't just a dog, he was the furry, four-legged keeper of my sanity, a living link to the happier days. 6 months ago, that bearable silence shattered. My son Nathan and his wife Jessica arrived on my doorstep, suitcases in hand, faces etched with practiced worry. Financial difficulties, they'd said. A temporary setback. Could they possibly stay with me, just until they got back on their feet? My heart, foolishly soft for my only child, immediately went out to them. Of course, I'd said. This house was too big for just me and Max anyway. Family helps family. That's what Robert always believed. The first few weeks were an adjustment. Their presence filled the house, not with warmth, but with a low, humming tension. Whispered conversations would cease when I entered a room. Jessica's smiles never quite reached her eyes, which seemed to constantly assess the value of my belongings. Nathan, my own son, became strangely distant, yet overly solicitous in ways that felt hollow. He'd ask about my health constantly, inquire about insurance papers Robert had left, always under the guise of wanting to help me get organized. I brushed it off as stress, their stress from their supposed financial woes. I focused on Max, his unwavering affection a balm to my growing unease. He didn't seem to like them much either, often retreating to my side with a low grumble when Nathan or Jessica approached too quickly. Then, one Tuesday morning, the bottom fell out of my world. I woke up, and the familiar thump-thump of Max's tail wasn't there. His bed beside mine was empty. Panic seized me. I called his name, my voice rising with each unanswered call. I searched the house, the yard, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. Nothing. Nathan and Jessica were in the kitchen, nursing coffees, looking entirely unconcerned. "Have you seen Max?" I cried, breathless. Nathan took a slow sip, avoiding my gaze. "Oh yeah, about the dog," he said, his tone chillingly casual. "He was getting really annoying, Mom. Barking, shedding everywhere. Honestly, he was just old. So, I took care of it, got rid of him." He shrugged, as if discussing taking out the trash. "Got rid of him?" I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "Nathan, what does that mean? Where is my dog?" He finally looked at me, a flicker of impatience in his eyes. "Don't worry about it. He's gone. It's better this way." Devastation washed over me, cold and absolute. My Max? Gone, handled, gotten rid of. By my own son. The casual cruelty of it stole my breath, leaving a gaping wound where my foolish trust used to be. And in that moment, looking at his impassive face, a terrifying suspicion began to bloom in the wreckage of my heart. This wasn't just about Max. Something far more sinister was lurking beneath the surface of their convenient financial troubles. The days following Max's disappearance were a blur of grief and a gnawing, sickening dread. Nathan and Jessica moved through my house with an air of entitlement, their initial pretense of gratitude replaced by a subtle impatience, as if they were waiting for something. My grief was an inconvenience to them, met with platitudes that felt like sandpaper on raw nerves. "He was just a dog, Mom," Jessica would say, patting my arm with cool, manicured fingers. "You can always get another one." But Max wasn't just a dog. He was my family, my furry confidant, the last warm piece of my old life. And Nathan hadn't just gotten rid of him, he'd ripped out a part of my soul with casual indifference. I started noticing things I'd previously dismissed. The way they'd lower their voices when I walked into the room, the quick, assessing glances they exchanged over dinner. Nathan's persistent questions about Robert's life insurance, about my will, suddenly seemed less like helpfulness and more like reconnaissance. He'd bring me documents, asking me to sign things he claimed were just household management forms, his explanations always slightly vague. A cold knot of fear tightened in my stomach. I started retreating, spending more time in my room, the silence now truly heavy, poisoned by suspicion. One evening, desperate for any news, any clue about Max, I decided to search online for local animal shelters and rescue groups. My own laptop was old and slow, so I impulsively picked up Nathan's tablet lying on the coffee table. He and Jessica were out, a rare occurrence, usually they stuck close. As I typed Golden Retriever Rescue near me into the search bar, his email application pinged open, displaying a list of recent messages. My breath hitched. Curiosity, sharpened by suspicion, made me click. The subject line of the top email read, Policy Confirmation, EC, Elizabeth Carter. My initials. My heart hammered against my ribs. With trembling fingers, I opened it. It was a confirmation for a life insurance policy. On my life. For $4 million. Taken out just 3 weeks after they moved in, with Nathan listed as the sole beneficiary. Nausea rose in my throat. Why would Nathan take out such a massive policy on me? We'd never discussed it. Frantically, I scrolled through older emails, and then I found it. An email chain between Nathan and Jessica, dated 2 months prior. The subject, Lake House Plan. My blood ran cold. I clicked it open, my eyes scanning the horrifying text. Detailed plans. Discussions about my medication, about making something look like an unfortunate accident. They were planning a trip to a rented lake house, a place they knew I loved for its tranquility. They wrote about ensuring I had a fall near the water, mentioning how easy it would be to stage a drowning, especially if I was disoriented. They talked about the timing, the payout, how their financial troubles would finally be over. My world tilted, my son, my own flesh and blood, planning my death, for money. The casual cruelty of taking Max was just a prelude, a test run of his capacity for heartlessness. He hadn't just stolen my dog, he was plotting to steal my life. The tablet felt like ice in my hands, a conduit to a betrayal so profound it threatened to shatter me completely. But as the shock subsided, something else began to stir within me, a cold, hard anger I hadn't felt since Robert died. They thought I was just a frail old woman, easily disposed of. They were about to find out how wrong they were. The words on that tablet screen burned themselves into my memory. Unfortunate accident, disoriented, drowning, payout. For a long moment, I just sat there, the cold dread washing over me in waves, threatening to pull me under. My own son, planning to murder me. The betrayal was a physical pain, a vice squeezing my chest. But then, beneath the grief and fear, a different feeling surfaced, a steely resolve. They saw me as weak, negligible, a problem to be gotten rid of, like my poor Max. They underestimated me. That would be their undoing. I couldn't confront them. Not yet. They were calculating, cold. A direct accusation would only make them change their plans, become more careful, perhaps even accelerate their timeline. No, I needed proof. Undeniable proof. My mind raced. Robert always said I had a sharp mind beneath my quiet exterior. It was time to sharpen it. My first thought was Patricia. Patricia Collins, my friend since college, now as sharp as a tack attorney. She was the godmother Nathan barely acknowledged, a woman whose loyalty was as fierce as her intellect. I deleted the search history on Nathan's tablet, wiped my fingerprints from the screen with a cloth, and placed it exactly where I'd found it. My hands were shaking, but my purpose was firm. The next morning, feigning a headache, I stayed in my room and called Patricia from my personal cell phone, whispering into the receiver. I told her everything: Max, the insurance policy, the emails, the lake house plan. There was a stunned silence on the other end, then Patricia's voice, low and furious. That absolute, Elizabeth, are you safe? For now, I whispered back. They think I suspect nothing. The lake house trip isn't for another few weeks. Patricia, I need your help. I need evidence they can't wriggle out of. Patricia didn't hesitate. Okay, Elizabeth. Okay. We play this smart. We play this carefully. Don't breathe a word. Act normal. I know exactly what we need to do. Within 2 days, Patricia had arranged for discreet security experts. While Nathan and Jessica were out on one of their mysterious errands, two quiet, efficient men installed tiny, virtually invisible cameras and microphones in the main living areas: the kitchen, the living room, the hallway outside my bedroom. They were state-of-the-art, activated by voice and motion, feeding directly to a secure cloud server Patricia and I could access remotely. Patricia also advised me to get a small personal recording device I could keep on me at all times, especially once the lake house trip began. The violation of having my own home wired felt profound, yet necessary. It was my word against theirs, and I knew whose story the world would more readily believe without concrete proof. I felt like a spy in my own life, every interaction with Nathan and Jessica now a performance. I smiled, I made small talk, I pretended ignorance, all while my stomach churned with revulsion. The wait for the cameras to capture something definitive felt like an eternity. Then, 3 days after the installation, Patricia called. "Elizabeth," she said, her voice tight, "we've got something. You need to see this." Logging into the secure server, my heart pounding, I watched the footage. Nathan and Jessica, sitting on my sofa, discussing the final details of their plan, confirming the type of sedative they'd slip into my evening tea at the lake house, laughing about how convincing they'd have to be when they discovered my body. The casual malice in their voices, the utter lack of conscience, it was chilling. Seeing it, hearing it, solidified my resolve into something unbreakable. They had sealed their fate. Now, I just had to set the stage for their final act. Living under the same roof as my would-be murderers was a master class in self-control. Every shared meal felt like dining with predators, every polite inquiry about my day, a veiled assessment of my awareness. I played the part of the slightly dotty, grieving mother, letting my sadness over Max be my shield. I'd sigh, look wistfully out the window, occasionally forget where I put my reading glasses, anything to reinforce their perception of me as harmless and fading. Inside, however, I was anything but. I was a tightly coiled spring of vigilance and cold fury. The hidden cameras continued to gather damning evidence. Snippets of conversations drifted from the living room, the kitchen. "Did you confirm the dosage?" Jessica asked Nathan one evening, her voice low but clear on the recording. Enough to make her drowsy and confused, not enough to raise red flags in an autopsy, if they even do one. Nathan's reply was chillingly practical. "Relax, it's foolproof. A slip by the water, a tragic accident. Everyone knows how much she loved that spot by the lake, and how unsteady she's been since Dad, and the dog." Hearing them use my grief, my love for Robert and Max, as props in their murderous narrative stoked my anger into a white-hot flame. They spoke of the $4 million like it was already theirs, planning extravagant trips, a new house, investments. My life, my legacy from Robert, reduced to a shopping list. Patricia and I spoke daily, analyzing the footage, planning our next steps. She was liaising carefully with trusted contacts in the police department, ensuring that when the time came, the response would be swift and decisive. We couldn't risk tipping them off. The lake house trip was now set for the following weekend. Nathan presented the idea to me with faux enthusiasm. "Mom, you need a break. Fresh air, the water, it'll do you good. Jess and I found this lovely rental, just for the three of us. A little family time." His smile was wide, predatory. I forced myself to return it, feigning delight. "Oh, Nathan, that sounds wonderful. Just what I need." Playing along was nauseating, but necessary. The days leading up to the trip were thick with a suffocating tension. I packed my bag, making sure to include the small, high-fidelity recording device Patricia had given me, disguised as a simple keychain. I practiced activating it discreetly. I went over the plan with Patricia one last time. She'd alerted the local authorities near the lake house. They would be on standby, ready to move in on my signal. Everything hinged on the next few days, on my ability to maintain the facade, to anticipate their moves. The hardest part was looking Nathan in the eye, seeing the face of the baby I once held, now overlaid with the calculating mask of a killer. The love I'd felt for him had curdled into something cold and sharp. He wasn't my son anymore. He was a stranger wearing my son's face, plotting my demise. As we loaded the car that Friday morning, Jessica fussing over the luggage, Nathan humming cheerfully, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The fear was still there, a cold undercurrent, but it was overshadowed by a grim determination. The trap was set. Now, I just had to walk into it and make sure they were the ones caught. The drive to the lake house was excruciating. 3 hours trapped in a confined space with Nathan and Jessica, their forced cheerfulness grating on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. They chattered about the weather, about the beauty of the changing leaves, pointedly ignoring the empty space on the back seat where Max should have been, his head resting on the window ledge, ears flapping in the breeze. Each mile closer to our destination felt like another step towards a precipice. I stared out the window, focusing on the passing scenery, forcing my breathing to remain even, betraying none of the turmoil raging inside me. I clutched the keychain recorder in my pocket, its cool metal, a small anchor in the storm of my emotions. The rented lake house was lovely, just as they described, secluded, picturesque, with a wide deck overlooking the water. Too lovely, too secluded. The isolation felt less like peace and more like a cage. As we unpacked, Nathan pointed towards the dock stretching out into the shimmering water. "See, Mom? Remember how you always loved sitting out on the dock early in the morning? It's perfect here." His words, meant to sound nostalgic and caring, landed like ice shards in my gut. That was the spot. The spot where they planned for me to have my accident. Patricia had arranged for a local contact, a retired sheriff named George, to be nearby. He was posing as a caretaker for a neighboring property, keeping a discreet watch. My signal to him, and through him to the waiting police, would be a specific text message. "The lake is beautiful today." Simple, innocuous, but the trigger for the final act. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, a lifeline and a weapon. That first evening, the air in the cabin crackled with unspoken intentions. Jessica prepared dinner, humming a tune that sounded jarringly cheerful. Nathan kept trying to engage me in conversation, asking about my day, topping up my water glass with excessive attentiveness. They were laying the groundwork, establishing their narrative of the caring son and daughter-in-law. I played my part, responding quietly, feigning tiredness from the journey. My appetite was gone, each bite of food tasting like ash in my mouth. Later, as we sat in the living room, a fire crackling in the hearth, Nathan approached me, holding 2 mugs. "I made you your favorite chamomile tea, Mom," he said, his smile overly bright. "And I thought I'd join you." He handed me one of the mugs. I knew, with chilling certainty, that this was it. This was the drugged drink, the first step in their plan. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hand was steady as I took the mug. The scent of chamomile filled the air, laced with the metallic tang of my fear. I had to switch the mugs. Patricia and I had rehearsed this possibility. It had to look natural, accidental. The moment hung suspended in time, the crackling fire the only sound besides the frantic beating of my own heart. Holding the warm mug, the scent of chamomile mingling with the acrid smell of betrayal, I forced myself to take a small, tentative sip. Or rather, I pretended to. I let the rim touch my lips, then lowered it, looking thoughtful. "Oh, Nathan, this is lovely," I murmured, my voice carefully modulated to sound slightly frail, appreciative. "But I think I might have left my reading glasses upstairs. Could you be a dear and grab them for me?" I wanted to look at that brochure about the local trails. It was a gamble, relying on his impatience, his eagerness to see his plan succeed. He hesitated for only a fraction of a second, his eyes flicking towards Jessica, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Of course, Mom," he said, forcing warmth into his tone. "Be right back." As soon as his footsteps faded up the stairs, I moved. Swiftly, silently, I swapped my mug with his, which he'd placed on the small table beside his chair. My hands trembled slightly, but I completed the switch just as I heard him coming back down. He handed me the glasses, his gaze lingering on the mug in my hand for a moment too long. Did he notice? I couldn't tell. I offered him a slightly vague smile, putting on the glasses and fumbling with the brochure, deliberately appearing preoccupied. He picked up his mug, the one intended for me, and sat back down, taking a long drink. Jessica watched him, a strange mixture of anxiety and anticipation on her face. I pretended to read the brochure, occasionally taking small performative sips from the now safe tea. Inside, my nerves were screaming. Had the switch worked? Would he notice the taste? Would they realize something was wrong? Minutes stretched into an eternity. I focused on my breathing, on appearing naturally tired. I allowed my eyelids to feel heavy, stifled a yawn. Nathan finished his tea, looking slightly puzzled for a moment, perhaps wondering why he felt a little drowsy, but likely attributing it to the long day or the fire's warmth. Then I began the next stage of the act. I let my head nod forward slightly, as if fighting sleep. I blinked slowly, my movements becoming sluggish. I let the brochure slip from my fingers onto my lap. From the corner of my eye, I saw Nathan and Jessica exchange a look of grim satisfaction. "Mom?" Nathan asked softly, leaning forward. "Feeling tired?" I mumbled something incoherent, letting my head loll slightly to the side. I closed my eyes, focusing on keeping my breathing deep and even, mimicking sleep, or perhaps the beginnings of unconsciousness. I heard Jessica whisper, "Is it working?" Nathan's reply was a low murmur. "Looks like it. Give it a few more minutes." They thought I was succumbing. They thought their plan was unfolding perfectly. Little did they know, the real plan, my plan, was just getting started. I remained perfectly still, feigning oblivion, every nerve ending alight, waiting for them to reveal their true selves, unaware that my tiny keychain recorder was capturing every treacherous word. The silence that followed my feigned lapse into unconsciousness was heavy, punctuated only by the crackling fire and my own deliberately slow breathing. I kept my eyes closed, my body relaxed, fighting every instinct to tense up. This was the most dangerous part. I needed them to believe I was completely incapacitated, unaware. After what felt like an age, I heard the soft rustle of fabric as one of them moved closer. "Is she out?" Jessica whispered, her voice sharp with a mixture of excitement and nerves. "Looks like it," Nathan replied, his tone hushed but laced with triumph. "Completely gone. The dosage was perfect." There was a pause, then Jessica giggled, a chilling, inappropriate sound. $4 million, Nate. Can you believe it? Finally. No more pretending, no more scraping by. "I told you it would work," Nathan boasted softly. She suspected nothing. Poor old mom. Too trusting for her own good, just like with that stupid dog. Hearing Max mentioned so callously sent a fresh wave of icy rage through me, but I remained utterly still. My hand, resting near my pocket, subtly ensured the keychain recorder was angled correctly. Every word was gold. Every syllable a nail in their coffins. "So, the doc?" Jessica confirmed. "Tomorrow morning, before sunrise?" "Yeah," Nathan agreed. "We carry her out. Make it look like she wandered out, maybe felt dizzy from her medication, slipped on the damp wood. Tragic. Everyone knows she wasn't steady on her feet." He chuckled darkly. "The insurance company won't question it. Accidental death, clean and simple. And the policy? Payout should be within a few months once the death certificate is issued. Then, we're free, Jess. Free." They continued talking for several minutes, mapping out the final details, discussing how they would discover me, the distraught calls they would make, the grief they would perform. Their utter lack of remorse, their cold-blooded planning, was horrifyingly clear on the recording. They spoke of my death as a business transaction, a solution to their financial inconvenience. They were monsters cloaked in familiar skin. Finally, satisfied I was deeply unconscious, Nathan said, "All right, Let's get her to her room. Make it look like she just went to bed early. I felt hands lifting me, one under my arms, one under my knees. It took every ounce of willpower not to flinch, not to recoil from Nathan's touch. They carried me upstairs, their movements efficient, practiced. They laid me on the bed, pulling the covers up around me. I heard them pause at the door. "Good night, Mom," Nathan whispered, the words dripping with grotesque irony. Then they closed the door, leaving me alone in the darkness. My eyes snapped open. I lay there for a moment, trembling, not from fear anymore, but from a profound, chilling certainty. I had them. Every cruel word, every damning detail captured. I reached into my pocket, my fingers closing around the keychain recorder. I didn't dare check it now. Morning. Everything depended on the morning. I took out my phone, the screen illuminating the dark room. My fingers flew across the keypad, typing the prearranged message to Patricia and George. "The lake is beautiful today. Send." The trap was sprung. Now, all I had to do was wait for the dawn, and for justice to arrive. Sleep was impossible. I lay awake, listening to the house settle, every creak and groan amplified in the charged silence. The recording of Nathan and Jessica's conversation played over and over in my mind, a soundtrack of betrayal. Dawn eventually broke, painting the sky in pale shades of gray and pink. I heard movement downstairs, the soft clink of coffee cups, muffled voices. They were preparing for the final act of their gruesome play. I rose, dressed quickly, and took a deep breath, steeling myself. I tucked the keychain recorder securely into my pocket and smoothed my clothes, composing my features into an expression of mild grogginess, just as I had planned. Showtime. Making my way downstairs, I found them in the kitchen, feigning normalcy. "Morning, Mom," Nathan said, perhaps a little too brightly. "Sleep okay?" "Like a log," I replied, keeping my voice even. That tea really knocked me out. I saw a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. "We were just thinking of taking a walk down to the dock," Jessica added, gesturing towards the door. "Enjoy the sunrise." "Lovely idea," I said, my heart beginning to pound. This was it. We walked out onto the deck, the air cool and damp. The lake was calm, reflecting the nascent light. As we approached the wooden dock, slick with morning dew, I deliberately stumbled slightly, playing into their narrative. Nathan reached out to steady me, his touch making my skin crawl. "Careful, Mom," he said, his voice laced with false concern. We reached the end of the dock. They stood close, one on either side of me. I could feel the tension radiating from them, the anticipation. This was the moment they'd planned, the moment they thought they'd end my life and inherit their fortune. But as Nathan opened his mouth to speak, perhaps to suggest I lean over and look at the water, another sound broke the morning quiet, the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway, the unmistakable sound of car doors opening and closing. Nathan and Jessica froze, exchanging panicked glances. Their carefully constructed plan was derailing. And then, figures emerged from the path leading to the house. Patricia, looking stern and resolute, flanked by two uniformed police officers and the retired sheriff, George. "Nathan Carter? Jessica Carter?" one of the officers called out, his voice sharp and authoritative. "Stay where you are." Confusion warred with dawning horror on Nathan's face. Jessica went pale, her eyes darting frantically between the officers and me. What is this?" Nathan stammered, trying to regain control. "Mom, what's going on?" I turned to face him, my voice clear and steady, shedding the last vestiges of the frail woman they thought they knew. "It's over, Nathan." I pulled the keychain recorder from my pocket. "I know everything. The insurance policy, the plan to drug me, the accident you had planned for right here, right now." I pressed play. Their own voices filled the quiet morning air, cold, calculating, damning. Jessica gasped, covering her mouth. Nathan stared at me, his face crumpling. The arrogance, the confidence, drained away, replaced by sheer, unadulterated shock and shame. His eyes, my son's eyes, locked with mine, filled with a dawning realization of his utter monstrosity, and the irretrievable ruin he had made of his life. That look, the raw, gut-wrenching shame, is an image that will forever be seared into my memory. The officers moved in, reading them their rights, handcuffing them. Jessica began to sob hysterically. Nathan remained silent, utterly broken, unable to meet my gaze again. As they were led away, Patricia put a comforting arm around my shoulders. "It's done, Elizabeth," she said softly. "You did it." The aftermath was messy: lawyers, court dates, the public unraveling of my family's darkest secret. But through it all, Patricia helped me navigate the legalities and start the long process of healing. One of the first things we did was track down Max. With the help of a tenacious animal rescue organization Patricia knew, we followed the trail Nathan had tried to cover. We found him, skinny and scared but alive, at a shelter 2 counties away. Our reunion was pure, unadulterated joy, Max whining and covering my face with frantic licks, his tail wagging so hard his whole body shook. Bringing him home, back to his home, felt like reclaiming a vital piece of myself. Life slowly found a new rhythm. The house felt quiet again, but this time it was a clean silence, filled only with Max's contented snores and the promise of peace. I started volunteering at the animal shelter that had helped find Max. It was there, surrounded by the unconditional love of rescued animals, that I met William, a kind-eyed veterinarian whose gentle respect and quiet strength showed me what real connection felt like. It wasn't about grand gestures, but shared laughter over a clumsy puppy, quiet conversations, and the simple comfort of knowing you are seen, valued, and safe. My son's betrayal left scars, but it didn't break me. Instead, it forged a strength I never knew I possessed, leading me out of the shadows and into a new chapter, one written on my own terms, filled with wagging tails, genuine smiles, and the quiet resilience of a heart that refused to be extinguished. Elizabeth's journey reminds us that resilience can bloom even in the face of the deepest family betrayal. Finding Max, finding purpose, and finding William weren't just about recovery. They were acts of defiance, proving that her spirit couldn't be extinguished by greed or cruelty. The haunting image of Nathan's face serves as a stark reminder of the devastating cost of such treachery. What do you think is harder to forgive? The initial act of betrayal or the calculated planning that follows? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if Elizabeth's story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to Revenge with Emma for more stories of strength and resurgence.